Good evening, everybody. It's Steve with Real Progressives. How are you tonight? So, I had to come into the office for a few minutes to get some paperwork done. We had our Real Progressives program management office meeting a little while ago while we devise what the next steps are for Real Progressives. And I think it's important that I tell you all that we are working diligently. We're working very, very hard to be a hell of a lot more than just a Facebook group. But one of the things that is abundantly clear to me, and it's what I want to convey to you, that I hope is powerful for you as well. And hello to all of you. But the thing that is very, very vital to me is, like, you ever seen people that quit 5 minutes before the miracle? They start a company, they start sitting down, they start writing up what their good idea is, and then all of a sudden some show comes on television and they're distracted and they never start their business. Or maybe, they are working out at the gym and they get real close to the goal that they want, and then for whatever reason they get distracted and stop. I see that happening in our activist communities. I see that happening amongst voters. I see that happening amongst family members. I see that happening everywhere I've gone so far. People stop 5 minutes before the miracle, and they don't fully bake out what their thoughts are. So they're really good at raising problems, For those of you who have managed teams in the past, hello. You know that you've got people on your team that will just tell you what the problem is. They'll raise their hand up and they'll say, "Hey, boss, I got this problem." But none of them actually follow through and come up with a solution. And so you see this every single time with our activists in the field that are working on environmental issues. You see it a lot of times with folks that are in the healthcare industry. You see it in all the different aspects of what we're fighting for, right? Ellis Winningham calls these orphaned politics, where people are literally caught in their little mini orphanages where they don't see how they're connected to the other pieces. And so they end up doing these little individual things here. Somebody else does some individual thing there, when in reality, if you look, there was a commonality between the two entities. And that underlying thing each time is, how are you going to pay for it? And they never ever come up with the solutions. They just say, stop, no, leave it in the ground, no more oil. Well, sadly, and this is a sad statement, but it's a true statement, sadly, right here, right now, we are heavily dependent on oil. And until we get off of oil, we've got a situation, right? We've got a situation. Life as we know it would literally come to an end if we stopped using oil like that, without having the replacement for renewable energies. And the flip side to that is that if we keep using fossil fuels, the end of our lives are coming as well. So we've got this real serious circular firing squad aspect to it, where we haven't really thought through. And so the reason why we're not taken seriously is because the things that we do are, we hold hands, we block pipelines, we do lots of stuff on social media, but we don't actually say, folks, here is a transition strategy to get away from fossil fuels, and here is exactly how we're going to pay for it. And these aspects of that full view, that full 360 view of each of our subjects, is critical to making any kind of progress. And because we don't see the intersectionality of all the issues that we care about, because we don't understand the underlying thread tends to be an economic reason, an economic motive, okay, we end up getting nowhere. So I've titled tonight's talk, Half Measures Availed Us Nothing, because as you know, I'm an old drunk, and I like to think about things from a perspective that I can relate to, right? So I know for myself, there's no way in the world I ever going to get sober and stop drinking if I half-step it. If I allow some knucklehead to tell me, oh, sure, you can have a drink, Steve. Don't worry about it, man. Everybody should have it in moderation. It's only when you go to extremes, extremists this and extremists that. Folks, I can't take a drink safely. You know what I mean? What, was it picking your nose? I can't take a drink safely, right? So when you think about that, it's like there is no such thing as half-stepping it. Well, it's the same thing, really. It should be the same thing with the environment. It should be the same thing with healthcare. It should be the same thing with the way that we take care of one another in terms of elderly care, when it comes to cultural diversity, when it comes to the arts, when it comes to all these factors that make up for a 360-degree view of the world. We should literally have an end-to-end strategy, and we should be actively working on that. Because otherwise, it doesn't do us any good to just be up in arms. Folks, if anybody doesn't already know today that we need renewable energy, if that's not a known, then we're in deep trouble. We all know this. So the question isn't whether we know this. We know this. The question is, how are we going to solve it? Do you understand what I'm saying? It does no good to keep pointing out, hey, we got another oil spill. Yep, there's a dead bird soaked in oil. You're damn right. That's terrible. What are we going to do about it? I don't know. We're going to go ahead and we're going to lock arms and we're going to block them. That's going to be the be-all, end-all strategy. It's not. Do you see? This is the problem. We need to be able to execute from A to Z. We can't go A to L. We can't go A to K. We need to go A to Z and provide a coherent, cogent, thoughtful, intelligent strategy to make this happen. Far too many just think it's great fun to be a radical with your fist in the air. And God knows we need them. But we need the other folks that come together to pull that full strategy end to end. I see a lot of people, especially alternative media folks, that are doing what I'm doing today, maybe do it better, I don't know, whatever, right? And those individuals are really, really good at yelling and screaming about what the problems are. They're really good, man. They can point out a problem a mile away. There's a problem. Hey, Steve, there's another problem. And I'm like, that's kick-ass, dude. I get it. Now, what's the solution? So this, my friends, is where you see Steve Grumbine get up on his heels, up on his toes, saying modern monetary theory, modern monetary theory. You know what I'm saying? And so as you think about that, as you think about these things, as you think about the fact that we've got to be able to explain in a coherent fashion how we're going to pay for these things, as you understand that, you begin to realize that you can counter the narratives of the half-steppers in the Republican Party, the half-steppers in the Democratic Party. You can counter the half-steppers in the progressive community. You can provide that end-to-end picture. Folks, that's exactly what I'm hoping Real Progressives grows into. We're not there yet. I mean, we're there in some ways, but we're not quite there yet. But we need to be there. It's going to take time. It's going to take resources. And it's going to take an awful large commitment from people that have the ability to execute those strategies and then put them forward, not only for the activist community, but for local politicians. Let me tell you a case in point why this is important. Local Greens and various Green Party reps around the country are working together. They're talking. They have lined up behind MMT. Now, the official Green Party platform is this whole debt fear porn. It's this whole nonsense that we are not a sovereign entity, that we've given up our sovereignty, and we can't do anything until we rid ourselves of this scourge and all this other craziness. But the reality is that there are local people that see the end-to-end, that we can make shit happen. And they like it. And they're like, Steve, how can we write this amendment up so we can take it forward? Folks, I'm telling you right now, people want to see an end-to-end strategy. They don't want to hear you say, okay, and so what? Yes, we know it sucks. Yes, we know they're not representing us. Yes, we know. So what is it that you do with that beyond there? You see what I'm saying? This is what drives me crazy about our movement. I'm a project manager by trade, so I want to execute shit. I want to plan it out. I want to think it through, and then I want to deliver. I want to prove my point, and I want to execute flawlessly, and I want to make sure we win, right? See, and sadly, our left wing, our progressive movement, is largely disorganized. We are priding ourselves on being disorganized because people somehow or another relate being organized to being the man or something weird, some bizarro world thing that only weird people think of. And that's not okay anymore. That's not cool for me. You know, I want to see people that are planning and that talk through things and that really think it through. Okay, so what's my counter argument when the Republican says something stupid? Because remember, just as brainwashed as the left is, the right wing is brainwashed too. And so I want to say something real quick for you folks out there, okay? Sandy Schoelles used to be a part of Real Progressives. And Sandy Schoelles' husband was in a motorcycle accident. Now, for those of you all who know Sandy, she works tirelessly on the environment. She's a very good person. And her husband was in a terrible motorcycle accident. I'm going to find the GoFundMe link, and I'm going to throw that in here, because I want you guys, if you can, to help out with Sandy's husband's medical expenses. He had a very, very bad spill. The guy's a seasoned bicycle rider. He rides motorcycle. He's been doing it for a long time. I don't know all the details. I read the GoFundMe. Sounds like he's got some neck damage. Sounds like he's in pretty serious shape. I'd like to see them be able to get him taken care of. So please, when I put this link out there, if you guys can find a way to donate to help Doug out, that would mean a lot to me. And I'm sure it would mean a lot to the family. So anyway, folks, I want to make sure that we understand this point. And I want you to understand how important this is. We've got to be able to execute as a movement. We really do. And folks, I want you to understand how important it is that we as a team, as a family, as a movement family, support one another like Sandy and Doug, and one another as we push forward, because we are taking on a ridiculously organized enemy. An enemy that absolutely refuses to let us win. So we have to take it from them, and we have to make it happen. Anyway, with that, please support Sandy Schoelles. Sandy, if you can provide that link, if you have that nearby you, please put it into the thing. I'll make sure it gets up into the top of the live stream to make sure we get as many folks out there supporting you. But in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to sign off for the night. I want to thank each and every one of you for standing with Real Progressives, and also for anybody that can help out Sandy and Doug. With that, I'm Steve Grumbine. Have a great night, everybody.